Lately, there's been a lot of talk about systemic racism. Everyone claims they want to fix it, but we can't even agree on what it is. We just know it's bad, like poverty or pollution. Systemic racism isn't just an idea, it's a real thing. There's a place where you can go and see real live systemic racism right in front of you. It's called the Hood.
Yeah. Melanin.
Oh no, backward.
The coalition of color, my brother, rock your crown. I'm here to show you the power inside the color brown. Now's the time to open up your mind to what they tried to hide from the real royalty. Open up your chakra from your brain to your feet and really realize what's inside and believe. Got God on my side and I ride with the queen. As we travel on this journey, I'ma show you what I mean when you open up your eyes. When you know what your worth is, never no surprise. Spirit of the sun, navigating stars. Times are getting better when you feel them getting hard like.
What's up, and welcome back to the Coalition of Color. If you're new to our channel, my name's Dominique.
I'm Justin.
And we're all about uniting, educating, developing, and advancing the Black millennial here in America. If that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you always know when we upload new episodes, and make sure you drop a comment in the section below if you have a suggestion for an idea on a video that you'd like to see us do.
All right, so based off of everything last year that happened and into this year, all the way up to the insurrection, we realized that while we're trying to unite Black people in America, there are two different sides of the coin. Those of us who think that racism exists and that there's a system of oppression, and those of us who think that that no longer exists and that we have all of the opportunities afforded to us today that our white counterparts have.
Right.
So we decided to do a series based off of questions that would kind of help us educate ourselves and educate you guys and kind of start this conversation on, does racism actually exist, and in which capacities does it exist in all of our lives?
Right.
Normally, when we want to know what the community thinks, we hit Black Lives Matter Plaza, but let's be real, it's cold outside. We just had a blizzard.
Right.
While this video is going on, it's blizzarding outside. So we had a very unique opportunity to reach out to friends, associates, and schoolmates that we haven't talked to in a long time.
Yes.
And shout out to all of you that actually came through for us in this Corona season. We were
really
kind of
appreciate
like
it.
touch and go. We didn't know how y'all were gonna receive us, but everybody said, let's do this in the safest way possible. And they came through and really let us know what their thoughts were. We asked 12 questions to the community to pretty much sum everything up. We started with question number 1. Does race actually play a part in today's wealth gap?
Absolutely, I do.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Always.
Definitely.
Most definitely.
And the way I explained it to people, there's these starting points. So a coworker of mine, me and him are in the same place, so he explained to me, well, I don't see how my experience is any different than a Black man's experience. So I had to explain to him that he was on his second or third property or whatever to move into his third house or something like that. But he was, profiting every time. So what I had to tell him was that, your grandfather didn't have any kind of weights on his shoulder. My grandfather grew up in a time, he was born in the 30s, where he had to deal with certain things that your grandfather didn't have to deal with. So he got to where he got to. And then beyond him, my father stood on his shoulders. Your father stood on his shoulders. My father was born in 57. He had to go to the back of the bus and he remembers that. You know what I'm saying? So these are the things that they don't think about.
Obviously, African Americans, we don't always come into wealth. So I feel like that plays a huge factor in how we're treated. We don't have the same opportunities even starting out. So, we're already at a disadvantage from the beginning. So
it's not the entire story, but it's where the story begins, because that's the way the world here in America is set up. Like, if you have ugly foundations, your building's gonna lean to the side. If you have strong foundations, it'll lean straight up and down. And we have certain people in the country that have strong, straight foundations, and some people in the country that's got pieces missing, wobbly pieces, broken pieces, and things that they decided, well, this was the best way, this was the best we could do, pieces, and it's makeshift. It can't pull itself from its bootstraps because its bootstraps are missing. And so it's gonna be laid to the side.
I feel like race plays a part in everything in this country.
And I think that it does, just because it's kind of like if you have the track thing. If you started a race and white America got to lap us 2 times and then we were able to go, it's very hard. You got to be Usain Bolt to catch up with the leader of that first 2 laps, basically.
I agree. The second question is, do you think race plays a role in your ability to get a mortgage?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do.
No, it's an individual credit for every America, so that has no color to it. You want to go get credit, you want to improve yourself, that's a self-motivation thing, so go do it.
Absolutely. There's all kinds of proof and history about redlining. You don't know what redlining is. To dumb it down, banks would say, don't lend to the people in this area because they're black. So make it higher for them, because we don't want them to come to our, white people neighborhoods. We want, if they are allowed to get some houses, we'll make it like impossible for them to pay it back.
Certain areas, it seemed to be a smoother process, but areas where it's predominantly white, I think I'm viewed differently. I'm in Columbia now, and I know it was a big difference from moving from PG County area to Howard County. It was a huge difference.
Yes, certain areas are predominantly zoned to certain races, like DC. Northwest is different race versus Southeast. So just looking at those different areas within the same state and seeing and talking about ownership and property, it definitely is, it's definitely an issue when it comes to your race, because you're not, again, it's still segregated.
That's a thing. And I think it's hard for people that are not affected by this to wrap their minds around that, just like it's hard for people that, to wrap their minds around slavery.
Personally, I've never gotten a mortgage, applied for a mortgage, so I really don't know.
I have one, and I can't say that race or racism actually played a part here in where we're at, but I cannot say that it doesn't play a part in certain areas of the country.
Right.
The third question was, does race play a part on property ownership today?
Yep, that definitely too.
I'm gonna say yes.
Most definitely. And I say that particularly because of the fact that we kind of were, from the beginning, set up to not have these things. I mean, yes, at some point they did allow black people to buy homes, but in that same sentence, they could only buy homes in certain areas. So all of that, it was set up that way from the beginning.
Only because of the ripple effects. And I'll explain that by DC. You got a grandmother who bought a house 30s, 40s for $29,000, $30,000 in DC, but now today that house is worth, say, $700,000, $800,000, right? Grandma dies, but nobody in the family is able to take over that house or to be able to pay the taxes on it every year. So when the taxes come due, everybody looking around like, I ain't paying the taxes, I ain't paying the taxes, I ain't paying the taxes. Let's sell it. So then what happens is that investment company comes in, buy that house or buy that whole block, refurbish the whole thing, and then sell the whole block.
If you work to get something, you could do the same thing, inherit it on down to your loved ones. So
I would have to say it does, because if we take it back to the beginnings of this country, black people did not own property, so we weren't able to pass that down to a point where people today have amassed as much property as our white counterparts.
Right, agreed. Question number 4 is, do you think race plays a role in your education?
Definitely.
yeah, I would say that.
Hell yeah. That's part of the foundation question.
I think that varies with me. Because at the end of the day, like every kid, or whether it be a kid or adult, has the same opportunity to learn outside the walls of a school as well too.
I'd say yes, just because, again, we don't get the same, and it may sound like a redundant answer, but we're not getting that same treatment as other races, and specifically Caucasians. They seem to get the better, if I will say it like that, when it comes to things and education. As we know, some of us aren't even privileged to go to college or to be in an area where there are good schools, quote unquote. So a lot of things that, from resources to books, we don't even have that. We're limited. So it's definitely an issue with the race.
I do. I believe that race often dictates the lines that school districts put up, and the lower income communities where people of color live often get fewer benefits from the government, less support from their elected officials. Without saying, we're not going to give those colored people the resources that they need in their educational systems, they often just go ignored.
Our culture doesn't have a lot to share when it comes to our education. I think that's wealth, if you can share a certain type of education. I think we're limited in that area. Like in schools, we didn't learn about balancing a checkbook. We didn't learn about credit. And I feel like a lot of us are lost. But I think it depends on where we're raised and who we're raised by.
And even now, I realize that I don't even know half of what I should know about my own culture, about just being an African American. A lot of things that we were taught and things that are supposed to be traditional, you research and you look into it now, and nothing is really catered to the African Americans. Everything is European or again the Caucasian race. So it's very one-sided when you grow up and really start to do research.
And personally, I definitely think it does, only because at 32 years old, I'm still learning things that I feel like are basic history pinpoints that I should know about African American history. You kind of told us about slavery and stopped it there, and I feel like there was so much more to be told about our history and our pride that you didn't tell us. And I mean, there's a reason you did that, and I think it's about race.
Next up was, do you think race plays a part on your ability to get a loan?
Yes.
I'm about to say yes. No.
No, I don't think so.
I think we've all gotten car loans. I think we've all experienced rent or mortgage. At this point, maybe even business loans. In my experience, I can't see where somebody has viewed my race better than my credit in any of these instances.
Right. So credit is king. Do you think race plays a part in what we see in the media today?
Media as in the news, media as in mainstream TV, as in censored, and then also cable network shows, and the way that we're depicted in all three of those genres of media.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Definitely.
Media is a reflection of people around you. It's what's going on. We've got the media that wants to show you what they want you to see. Anybody would want the largest number of their consumer to cater to them and not to the niches.
Like you said, some things get covered, other things you don't even hear about. And if you do, it's months later.
At the end of the day, like, violence sells. And I'm not saying we as black people are violent, but they only show what they want you to see.
I think the media likes us to be in the space of entertainment. The bad part about it is that bleeds over into our normal society. Like, our kids are emulating rappers who are pretending to do dumb stuff.
It makes me feel like I have a job. I have to constantly represent what black women are also, not just, oh, that's not us, because a lot of times you see things that are misrepresentation. We have wonderful examples of black women, but the ones that stand out the most are the ones that are not that flattering.
But I will say that I have been encouraged lately. I believe that the liberal media is up to some good here. And then there's been a lot more representation and diversity on TV and movies, even, on radio. There are different types of voices heard in ads. I think I am seeing more of my little brown self represented in many different ways, good and bad. And I feel like that's an important step because it makes sure that people of color are not all painted with one brush.
Yeah, there's not many black CEOs of these network companies, so you've got a lot of white people in control of how black people are depicted in the media.
The next question was, do you think race plays a part in your ability to get a lucrative job? We're not talking entrepreneurship. We're talking, when we're talking successful
CEO.
Six-figure, or no matter where you're located, if $80,000 is
your cap?
Yeah.
Right.
Does race play a part on your ability to attain that job?
Yes, compounded with the being female, yes.
You say no.
Yes, I believe so.
Yes.
I can say yes.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Just in this area, no. This is a predominantly black county run by black people. I don't believe that in PG County that you would ever have any issue with getting a job, a well-paying job. And then plus you look around, look at the houses. I mean, look at our neighborhood, you know what I'm saying? There's just $1 million homes, some of those, you know?
I played in the boys' game for a long time, being in engineering and cybersecurity. I had to constantly prove that because I did not have testicles, I could still do what they asked me to do.
You can have all the qualifications that the white man has, and it's about who you know. The white man can know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, which is basically privilege. So I feel like if you got the talent or a need for it, they'll hire you because it's all about money at the end of the day.
Again, just not having the same playing field as someone else of another race. I mean, for whatever reason, skin color, I mean, it really deters people from giving you the same opportunity as somebody else. So, yes.
I think race plays a part in obtaining jobs, but I also think that race plays a part in keeping those jobs. Instead of African Americans or anybody of color showing up and just being themselves, they are often having to be a representative for their entire community. That's a lot of pressure and a big burden for one person.
I see it before my eyes all the time. That's why I'm always so hesitant to put my race down on anything, because I'm like, why?
Speaking from experience, racism hasn't really affected my ability to get a lucrative job.
I would have to play devil's advocate. I think that's because you are applying for a job in a Prince George's County area. But if we were in another state, maybe another county, like maybe Howard County, Anne Arundel County, I don't think the opportunity is the same. But I'm not sure. I've never applied for a job there.
I think it's crazy that based off of our own experiences, this is the way that we think some of these just because of what we've experienced. And you know, while we can't necessarily concretely speak to it, we've had experiences that would allude to this will probably be my experience if I was in that area.
But you can't assume though.
You can't assume.
Which is what Rodney says, right?
You're right.
You can't assume unless you've had that experience and you compare the variables accurately.
Apples to apples, oranges to oranges.
You learn that. Do you think that race plays a role in the art that we see in the communities that we live in?
Yeah, I'll say yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, particularly in that if you are in a more urban community, there's less art. You know, there's less awareness about art. Now, we will have community centers and we'll have, you know, all kinds of activities for children. But as far as the adult individual, what is there other than go to DC? You know, what is in PG County that I don't have to go travel or do something special? That's not really a large part of the community of Black people, I don't think. I think we have to go outside ourselves to find it.
What I really want to say is that people who, of all cultures, like to look at other people's culture and, you know, pointing like, oh, look, isn't that beautiful? Not necessarily knowing how to incorporate that into their own lives every day. Like, it's fun to go look at Native American or indigenous people's art and say, oh my gosh, isn't that so cool that they crafted these weapons out of this, but nobody wants to have the conversation about, well, why they had these weapons? Because of the colonizers. You know, I feel like race in art is beautiful, but appreciating it outside of just like looking at it is difficult.
When we speak about art and just even funding around art or funding around projects, you know, the racial part comes into play. How much can you get funded, or is this even something that the community per se is even interested in? Is it even worth it? So definitely plays a role in the art community.
Most definitely.
Yes.
Yes, 110%.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's terrible. There is conscious and sometimes subconscious bias against people of color who, when they were brought to this country, were seen as less than full human beings with the rights and powers that those who were in power had. And so now that we're free, that deep ingrained in our DNA, and that's for all people in this country, bias against people of color is hard to overcome. And I believe that when people are put in a position of authority, it puts them in a place to judge and those ugly biases and judgments come out. And far too often, people become cowboys, they get a gun and a badge, and they think they can do whatever they want, and everybody else is subpar. And it would be foolish to ignore the history of our country and how we have been policed and how that translates to how we are policed now.
Everyone has seen that just within this last couple of years. I mean, police brutality has just been an all-time high. It's still going on. It doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
And it's not just racist police officers. There is a system, and there is, I believe, a lack of training in sensitivity to that existing system. I don't know whether or not there was, sensitivity training, or in this case or that case training. It seems like the training is just, this is the target, get it. And I feel like if you're going to give a person, a human being with feelings, weapons, then that person is going to have to prove that they can human with those weapons at other humans, because we're not fighting robots. This is not Terminator.
Exhausting is a great word for it, because it's just like, why, again? Like, seriously? And then what makes it even worse is that we're still not seeing the convictions. So it's just like,
I don't think race so much plays a part in it as it just becomes a product of the whole situation. Because the police aren't gonna go to a certain area just because they're black. Like, look at this area. Again, I could count on one hand how many times I saw the police last year in our neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? You don't see the police around there, but it's a predominantly black neighborhood. But you go to Howard County, to certain white areas in Howard County, is a county over where there's predominantly white people in this particular trailer park. You see the police all the time. It's just a matter of where the crime is, and the police follow the crime trends. They follow what the crime is. So if I'm getting a bunch of burglaries over here, so they come up with a plan, all right, this is what we're gonna do in that area. So they send more police to that area. They do different type of interdiction actions in that area, and that's why you would get more police.
Coming from a policing aspect, yes. Just because, like everybody said, pretty much the whole trickle-down thing, maybe not so much so that you sign up to be the police today and it's like, go get these black people, but I think because from the origin of policing, that was to go catch the runaway slave thing, until you've retired or eradicated all of those good old boy mentality people. And all of this, once again, is subjective, because in DC might be different than Prince George's County, but I think that it's safe to say that in the southern counties, it's a little bit hard. No matter where you look at it, the news, YouTube, if you've ever gone to a southern state, like it's a lot different there with law enforcement than it is, where we're from in Prince George's County.
And we all remember that test that was done with the white guy and the black guy walking down the same street.
With the AR-15.
Same gun.
Yes. Same street, same
police
officers, everything.
Different treatment.
And
so it's kind of hard to argue that fact.
Yeah.
The next question that we had was, do you think racism plays a role in the destruction of the black family?
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
yes, if it does play a part, I don't feel like it's intentional. I kind of feel like it is more something that we're doing on our own. I feel like we unfortunately didn't create the culture. We're just living in it. I don't think anybody's like purposely like, oh yeah, this is the way to go, but this is what you were doing and this is what you grew up in. It's just like, it worked for her. I came out fine.
It's hard for it not to. #slavery. Back when we were still in bondage, it was common practice to break up families, to take the man away. Although it was centuries ago, it wasn't centuries enough ago to erase that culture of separateness and that desperation to feel freedom. And if that means abandoning that nuclear family, sometimes it does.
When I thought white, I thought happy, full, complete family. And it's probably because all what I saw on TV, and you don't see the black happy family. You just don't. So I just think it's just programmed that way.
I always think like media, from what we see on TV. When you see a typical Caucasian family, you see a mom, a dad, a brother, sister. You see the complete household. Within ours, we see pictures of just a single mom, or we see mom and kid and dad being incarcerated. So it's always depicted as never the full picture, never a full family.
And I 100 wholeheartedly believe that it does. And maybe not racism, system, and maybe not race per se, but this, once again, this trickle effect, or slavery, and all of the systematic oppression that has been put into place since then, since 1965, right?
The war on drugs,
right, all of
all
those
of
things, the criminal justice system, redlining, education system, the districts, all of those things play a part in the destruction of the black family.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it just takes it back to one of the previous questions for me. A lot of that comes from the way we're depicted in the media. You don't see the Blackish. You got Blackish. Name another show that, you know, you really have that.
Black family?
Yeah, that's not just black family, because it's out there, but black successful, like doing well, like Blackish, driving the Mercedes, got the nice house, taking care of the parents, you know, got your kids going to school. You just don't see that prevalent in our media.
You don't see it at all. You don't see the single mother either. You don't see...
Well, we do. The Chi, Power. You know, you see that a lot more. Granted, when they first started, whatever, but afterwards it was the separation. The light skinned non-black chick came in and broke up. Detrimental to the family. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Colorism rearing its ugly head, and we all know how 50 Cent feel about it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I really do. Right. Today, I can only think of Blackish as one that says, here's a successful black family who has black problems, you know, but is still successful.
Right.
You know.
True.
Next question. Do you think race plays a part in the health care that you get today?
Yes.
Yes.
To my understanding, I feel like we all get the same health care.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but as I heard somebody say is your income allows you certain limits to what you can get and what you can afford. So that's already planned for them of what they're going to give us. It's called privilege. You got to work your way up.
No, but quality of care that you may be able to afford, maybe. My mind process is more like you have insurance, right? But because you are low class and you have state insurance, which kind of gets you like the bare minimum. So you can go to the doctors, yes, you can be seen, but you may not be able to afford the treatment, so you don't get them. So it's not that you can't get the care, you just might not be able to afford it based upon the health insurance that you have.
And having worked in healthcare for a few years, you see that. You know, you have your African American patients that come in, more specifically for me, mothers in labor, they come in pain, and it's kind of like, oh, you'll be okay. And then you have your Caucasian mother or of different race mother come in, and immediately they're being serviced, they're being empathized, like they're really drawn to them, making sure they're comfortable. Where with us, it's a known fact that doctors and providers have said and feel that black women have a higher tolerance of pain. So, I mean, when you talk about care and how does that play with race, it's definitely an issue.
I do believe race plays a part in the quality of health care. I believe that Black people struggle to be heard when they're speaking to medical professionals, and that's why I think representation in the medical field is so important traditionally. Let's just be honest, there's underlying distrust of people in the medical field because of the history of this country and what's happened to African Americans, either seeking help or just being experimented upon or excluded from healthcare.
In the system, yes, because I've actually been to interviews with nurses that talk about how they didn't realize they were being biased in a certain way. When a white woman complains about how a pain is, for example, you know, she listens, she's attentive, but when a black woman complains, it's like, oh, you're strong, you got this, you know, you don't need la la la, and she didn't realize she was doing it until somebody pointed it out. But it's systemic, you know, we are systematically built and represented as these indestructible creatures that don't need as much coddling and care as other people. You can look at the mortality rates of black women and childbirthing, something simple that, you know, we've been doing since Jesus died. Like it shouldn't be this disparaging. You know, I was just reading something about, there's a woman who talks about the PTSD. She does she calls it post-slavery. And she talks about the experiments that doctors did on babies. Just, it's disgusting and crazy, and it makes me not really trust doctors completely. I'm mostly holistic because I don't even like Tylenol. Like,
I'm just gonna say yes and leave it
I,
at that.
I think so too. It is what it is. Unless you're getting a good government job, when
Even
it comes
if
to
you get a good government job, I feel like
oh, that's right.
it's
You're
not
right.
about your health care per se. It's about the quality of
perception.
care that you get when you get there, because their perception of you is just skewed.
You're right.
So you could have the best service in the world, and I get it. If you're not comparing it to the white girl over here, then you don't know. I just know personally of situations that have happened where the treatment was just completely different. All right, so the final question, guys, is do you think that racism exists in America in 2021?
hell yes.
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 Oh, for sure. For sure.
I do wholeheartedly, but it's like it's covered differently.
I believe racism does still exist in 2021.
I do, most definitely. I just don't think that everyone is experiencing it.
If you living and breathing today and you watch TV and you look at the news, you see for yourself.
It's a solid yes for us.
For us. But if you don't think so, or you have some other viewpoint, please put that in the comment section below. We are starting, like I said, we're starting a series that will dive into each one of these questions and really figure out, does it really exist, or is this just something that we have conditioned in our head that,
because
oh, it's
we are
racist,
so open
it's
to
racist.
it,
Yeah.
right? We're open to learning and figuring out if it's time to move past this,
Right.
as so many people have
Right.
told us.
To buy some bootstraps now and
pull
pull
them
those
up.
up.
Right, seriously
Right.
though. But seriously, guys, please drop some comments in the section below. Let us know what you thought about the episode, and if you feel like racism still exists.
Yeah, and like we said, join us for the next 2 months, and we'll be diving into each one of these.
Nobody's better than the next person. So at the end of the day, on Judgment Day, all resumes is erased. You got to be seen as equally. Come together, I guess. I mean, see each other as equally. That's gonna take time, but I believe this could be possible.
I would say is be vigilant about the situations, but don't let it affect how you react, so that at the end of the day, it can't turn into a situation where someone's like, oh, this happened to you because of. Don't let that affect how you respond to the situation, because that changes things quite a bit too. And next thing you know, you're a thug.
Stay united with each other. So that's definitely a big point that we don't do. It all starts with ego, I think. So I think everybody has to take that ego out there.
It's hard to hate up close. I feel like if we extend our arms and open our doors to people who aren't like us, that we get a little bit closer to eradicating hate.
If everybody operated out of love and not out of what they see with their eyes, if they can kind of reprogram themselves from what they saw in childhood and what we see in the movies and everything, if you can just sit with one or two white people and just kind of hear their side, then I think you'll see that, okay, we all have issues. We all been programmed.
Nice guys finish last. It coincides. I follow the Black Panther revolution to some degree, but it's like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. Make a long story short, if I had to drop a gem, always watch your six.
Well, and I would say it has to start with us. Like we talked about colorism, can't expect other people to jump on our side and, defend us to the end if we are not doing our part within our own culture.
It's gonna have to be an each one, teach one situation, because a lot of us don't, as Black people, feel like it's our job to really fix the world, and we just wanna live our lives. Our main issue with racism is that we can't just exist. We gotta be discriminated against. We gotta feel bad about ourselves. We gotta discover our Blackness and all this mess that other people don't have to do. So we're already exhausted.
The future of Black people is not determined by how we're treated by white people. It's determined by how we treat each other. We gotta look within. You can't be out here searching for what everybody else is doing. You build from within.
As always, we thank you guys for coming back with us every single week.
Yes.
We thank you for all of your donations. Cash App, the Coalition of Color. We thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And I can't say it enough. You have to at least like the video.
Yes.
That pushes us
Yes.
up.
Even if you don't subscribe.
Right. If you
I'd rather
think
you
that what
subscribe.
we're doing helps, just please at least like the video.
Yes.
It's, 2 seconds of your time. We really appreciate it. Nothing else to say, but
Malcolm, take us out.
taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
If that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you hit that subscribe bell.
You nailed it, though. Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen, neither one of us have ever nailed it like that. That was fire. Try to have a conversation with me and not the wins.
Okay.
All right.
Works for me. What am I doing with my hands?
Nobody ever knows that.
Everybody's like,
I don't know what to do with my hands.
yeah. And so I feel like it's our job as, you know, you said, I feel like it's.
I know. I was holding it together until he got to this side.
Babe, you can't sit there. You're distracting me.
You can't
See?
distract him. You can't distract him. Hey, this is for me. Do this for me. Okay, I'm gone. The third question was. The third question was, does race play a ability or?
I agree there.
Okay. Do you think that?
Or we inspire art. Cause honey, let me take my clothes off. Like, no. I play too much. Cut that out. Not so much that there's something wrong with. I mean, because obviously there are people. Oopsies.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Okay.
The third question was, does race play your ability?
Do you think, almost done, do you think race plays a part in the way our country polices in the justice system?
Didn't I already answer this? No,
You did.
No, yeah, definitely. But like, if it does disrupt us and make us change or, you know, result in some mutation, then I don't want that.
So you just want to be first in line?
Oh no, I shan't be first.
Right. Two more easy, well, one easy one and. The third question was, does race play an
It's not ability.
I know. Well, it is.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, what is he reading?
I don't know if any of that makes sense though. I feel like I'm just talking. Okay, it's just word soup. Blah blah blah. Rhonda thinks things.
They build they. I said white people.
You can say white people.
White people.
Yeah,
They.
I'm about to say
It's a pro-black channel.
It's a pro-black channel.
Okay.
Yeah, we say white people all the time. That'll be a blooper. That's funny. Okay. Do you? Oh my gosh, I gotta pee so bad. I've been trying. I'm sorry.
Girl, go pee.
That's gonna be a blooper.
You so silly. Oh, wait. You still. Oh, I'm on camera.
Last question. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's what I said. Trying to steal my question.
Here you go.
All
All right. Do you think race plays a part in the quality of healthcare that you're afforded?
Yes.
Well, we went through that pretty fast. All right, so I got two more questions. Marriage is an institution from white people, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want to be nobody's sister wife unless she does the laundries. Yes. She got to do the chores. She got to do all them things that I don't want to do. Then maybe we can talk.
You wouldn't get all that. Look at Janelle. I knew she was thinking, damn, my question wasn't like that.
I can hear both of them. I can hear both of them.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Say it one more time. It was like back and forth right there.
It was. I'm sorry. Even Janelle jumped in, right?
Yeah, I was like, it was.
So all in all, do you think racism still exists in America?
Girl, yes. Yes.
All right. Finally. Done. That's 2 weeks worth of work. But it's gonna be done right, though.
It's gonna be
done right.
We took our time. We figured it out. I'm gonna